Hey guys, this is me, Chris. Another special edition of the Blazing Show with Chris. Here I have a man named Bruce Van Natta. Bruce, you there? Bruce?
Yes,
Oh, hey. Okay, you're on. So, introduce yourself, Bruce.
yes, this is Bruce Van Natta from Central Wisconsin, president and founder of Sweet Bread Ministries.
Ah, um, I've heard of you on the Christian Broadcasting Network, the CBN. Um, but first, before you go into that, what's the missionary of Sweet Bread Ministries about? Can you talk a little bit about that, like preview it?
Yes, yes, Sweet Bread Ministries is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We do traveling. I'm a traveling speaker. I speak at a lot of churches, jails, some schools. We built orphanages. We built a church. We drilled wells, Jesus wells for people that didn't have water. But majority of what we do is travel around and just tell people about Jesus.
Oh, nice. By the way, the can you talk about the what happened that day? Where you used to be a trucker. I don't know if you're still a trucker now, but
Actually, I wasn't a trucker. I was a diesel repair mechanic is what I did. I worked on diesel engines,
oh,
and that's how the accident happened that you're referring to. It was actually in 2006,
oh,
November of 2006, and I was working on a huge Peterbilt logging truck, great big logging truck that as big of a semi truck as you'd see anywhere. And the guy that I was working on it with, he was the driver of this truck slash part-time mechanic for this particular logging company. It was a 3-day job. We had worked on it for 3 days. Got to the end of the job, and it was actually like a Thursday night, about 6 o'clock at night, and I had to get the engine running, do some engine repairs, and I got and put
oh,
them way back in my truck. I had a service truck that I would show up and do on-site repairs. So like, same way like if you had a problem with your plumbing, you call a plumber in to come fix your plumbing at your house. He would
oh,
call me up, and I would show up on site and do on-site diesel repair.
wow,
So that's what I was doing at this particular logging company, was working on this big logging truck and fixing the diesel engine. So I got the engine running, and I'm wiping my tools off, putting them away back in my service truck, just getting ready to leave. And the guy says to me, "Hey, before you go, can you just look at one more thing for me?" And I said, "Sure." And so if you can picture this great big huge logging truck inside of a big implement garage, big truck garage, and he had jacked up the front of the truck. And if you were to look underneath any big semi truck, if you were to like stand in the front and like get on your knees and look underneath the front bumper, looking towards the back of the truck,
oh,
what you'd see is that the lowest thing to the ground is the front
Bruce
axle.
Van Natta
oh,
loved
And the
trucks,
reason
and
why
his
it's
job as a
called the front
self-employed
axle,
diesel
and all that means is where the wheels
mechanic,
connect.
helped this Christian family.
When you turn your steering wheel,
oh,
but where those wheels connect, they connect the axle, and it just drops down on both sides and goes across from one side of the truck to the other. This big heavy axle. So basically, that carries all the weight of the whole front of the truck. This particular truck had 5 to 6 tons of weight, so 10,000 to 12,000 pounds of weight just on those two front tires.
dang,
The whole truck itself weighed 16, 17,000 pounds. So quite a, like that's 8 tons. But on the front, just the two front wheels, 5 to 6 tons. And the guy I was working with, Leonard, he jacked up that front axle with a bottle jack underneath that axle. He jacked it up in the air and removed the passenger side front wheel. And so I fixed the engine. I'm getting ready to leave, and he says, "Hey, will you just help me with something else before you go?" And so I got on the creeper, a little tool that mechanics use to go underneath vehicles. So I laid down on the creeper and I slipped underneath the front of the truck.
oh,
And you lay on this creeper, you lay on it like it's just a little small board with wheels on the corners. And
oh,
lay on it so that you can lay down and go underneath vehicles. And so I laid on it. I just barely fit underneath the front bumper. I go up underneath the truck, and where I stopped, the axle was going from the left side to the right side, but it was going right across. Where I stopped underneath the truck, it was going like right above my belly button. And it goes, like I said, from the left side of the truck to the right side of the truck. it's maybe like 3 to 4 inches front to back, maybe 6, 7, 8 inches tall, and again it goes all the way from the left side to the right side, or 8 feet, from one side to the other, whatever, between the two front wheels.
Wow.
And there was just enough space for me to slip underneath it. So it's like just above my uniform, just above my belly. And he had removed the wheel on the one side, so the only thing that's holding the jack up on that passenger side was the only thing that's holding up the axle on the passenger side was the jack.
Wow.
So he gets in the truck, he climbed up inside the truck, and when he did, the truck shifted, and he had not used any safety equipment, no jack stands or no blocks. And the jack flew out, and the truck, that front axle, 5 to 6 tons of weight, just came down across my midsection and just crushed my body in half.
Couldn't the axle go like for both wheels? Because like in the video, it looked like it's only like one side or something. Isn't there like axle jacks for both sides?
Well, the driver's side front wheel was still connected. The passenger side wheel was off. So when the mechanic, the other guy, jacked up the axle, he jacked it up on the passenger side in order to remove that front wheel. But once the jack slipped out and that axle came down, it just came down until it hit the cement. Now it's coming up at an angle from the passenger side, going up at an angle towards the wheel that's still connected on the driver's side. But when it hit the cement, it literally like hit the cement. It just fell down through my body and hit the cement right, maybe, I don't know, a foot away from where I'm laying underneath it, and just like a foot to the left, it's on the cement, and it's coming up at an angle. And on the left side of my body, if you can picture this, was only about an inch of airspace between the bottom of the axle and the cement. So my body is like 1 inch thick on the left side, and it's flat all the way from the left side to the right side, in between my ribs and my pelvic bone, so all the way across the middle. And on the right side, it was thicker because that wheel was still on that side, so it's coming up at an angle. So I was probably like 2 inches thick on the right side.
Wow.
I was thinner than my vertebrae in my back. Everybody seemed like a skeleton at some point. And my vertebrae in my back were broken. The 2 vertebrae were broken. The width of the axle that had fallen on all the way down through my stomach.
No way.
Crushed. Broke the creeper. The creeper got totally flattened out. It was a hollow core plastic creeper, and it just flattened out like nothing. The axle fell down, and it crushed me just a little bit thinner than what my vertebrae in my back is. It broke the lumbar, and the vertebrae themselves were spider cracked, according to doctor radiology reports.
The whole vertebrae was cracked?
Yeah, my vertebrae were broken. The width of the axle. I was flat across the middle.
Wow, and you have blood going through your throat, etc., like in the video, pretty much, right?
Yeah. So when it fell on me, what happened was blood shot up out of my mouth, out of the inside of my body, out of my mouth at once. Like literally, when it fell on me, like if you took your toothpaste tube, you took the cap off, and stomped in the middle of it, put it on your bathroom floor, and stepped on it. Stuff is going to squirt out, right? Well, that's what happened when this truck made me flat across the middle. Blood literally shot out on impact out of my mouth, and then it just stopped. It didn't keep coming; it just stopped because it was all pinched off in the middle.
Oh man!
So at that point, I called out to God, and I just said, "God, help me." I remember saying it twice. I was freaking out, panicking, and the guy got down on the truck, the guy that I was working with, and he looked underneath the truck and saw that my body was basically crushed in half, top and bottom, and he wanted to shock, he panicked, he froze, and it seemed like forever, and I had my head turned around, looked back towards him, and I just started begging him to call 911. I was saying, please call 911. And he just was in shock. He was just frozen. I kept saying it, and finally he went and called 911. It seemed like forever, but I'm sure it wasn't. And he went and called 911, and then he went to go get the jack, and he couldn't jack it back up where he had jacked it up originally because the axle is now on the floor. It's touching the cement. So there's no way to put the jack underneath it to jack it up. It's on the floor over there. So he's been trying to find a place to jack it up off of me. And the closest thing he could find was the front spring on the passenger side, which is a big curved suspension part. And he put the jack underneath that, and he started jacking up, and that's attached to the axle. So it worked to lift up the axle, but because it's on a curve, I knew that the jack was going to slip. So I'm looking at him doing it. I'm begging him not to jack up there because I was afraid the jack was going to slip. It's just going to fall on me again. And the jack did slip, but it wasn't like real as bad as what I thought. It just slipped a little bit. slid up until it caught on the end of a bolt that was going through those springs. And with the rivet, whatever it was, holding the multiple leaves and that leaf stack of leaves together. And so he jacked it up off my body, and I remember looking down. You can picture this. I mean, this thing is falling all the way across my stomach from left to right. And when I looked down, my work uniform got the edge of my ribs, and it just went down to like my spine and went flat up to my pelvic, and then
Oh, you said you told the mechanic not to let.
all across my stomach, just like just like out of a cartoon.
Wow, you told him not to get you up or something like that. You told him not to get you up and like you want.
Yeah, I was begging him to. I was afraid that the jack was going to slip, and so I'm really, I'm panicking and I'm going into shock. And so I was afraid the jack was going to slip and the truck was going to fall me again. So I was begging him to get me out, but he wouldn't touch me because most people have been told you don't want to move someone that has a back injury. They could get paralyzed. And he could see that I was flat across the middle. So he knew my back had is broken, so he wouldn't touch me. So I reached back behind my head, up just back again. If you can picture it, I'm laying on my back underneath the truck, and I was able to reach back behind my head, and I could just grab the bottom of that big front bumper, stick straight down. I was just able to grab the bottom of it. And what I did was I dragged myself out as far as I could, and at that point, as far as that was, is I got my head and my front shoulders, basically. I was able to drag myself out that far up from underneath the front of the truck. So just my head and front shoulders are now sticking out from underneath the front of the truck, out from underneath the front bumper, and the rest of my body is still underneath the truck. So if the jack would have slipped, it would end up falling on my legs this time instead of like my stomach. And then he had called 911, and it's in a rural area, real super rural area, like middle of nowhere, Wisconsin. Where I live here, and no big cities or anything, and actually no, several miles to the next even little town. And so it's a volunteer fire department when you call 911. And so one of the guys on the volunteer fire department was just driving home from work when he got the 911 call, and he was there pretty quick. And he's talking to me and stuff, and I was having a hard time breathing. And it was about that time after the guy that was working with Leonard had jacked up the truck. I dragged myself out. It was a couple minutes, and then I ended up. My heart stopped. I bled out because everything in the middle of my body was totally crushed. My arteries, my veins, my pelvic, my
5 major arteries.
My 5 places, yeah, 5 places. Major arteries totally severed.
Which arteries were they, by the way? If you want to.
Superior mesenteric artery was severed. I know that was the biggest one. Superior mesenteric artery, and that one was severed like in 3 places.
Wow.
And that's the biggest one. It's the one that goes all through your small intestines. And they say that doctors, so like History Channel has done my story, Discovery Channel taped it. It hasn't been released yet. That'll be in a couple months. Sometime around midsummer. Discovery Channel. There's other networks have done it. It's been on over 30 television shows and over 100 radio shows. And the reason why is because 2 parts. But one is doctors say I'm the only person that can find the whole entire world.
Yeah, and you're not exaggerating at all, because I actually see like a document, first surgery, this and that, and it's all like you see like the paper, exactly. The medical documents. Yeah. What about the part where you say you claim you saw angels, but they didn't have wings or something like that?
Yeah. So what happened was when that first responder got there and he was talking to me, it was about that time that I died. I mean, I couldn't say I literally died because my heart stopped. I bled out internally, and after I bled out, my heart stopped. And I lost the pulse, my heart stopped, my eyes closed, my head slumped. I didn't just go unconscious. My heart literally stopped. I died. And when my physical body died, my spirit left my body and went up to the roof of the garage. And, I grew up in a family that we didn't, attend church, or, we weren't like a religious family. We might go like on Christmas or Easter or something like that. I didn't grow up in a real religious home or anything. And I'd spent 20 years of my life partying. I smoked pot every single day, did drugs, got drunk all the time, partied a lot, did a lot of illegal stuff. And so it's not like I'm Mr. Super Religious guy, but The Bible does
I
say,
wouldn't see you as somebody that drinks or does pot actually.
well, I did. I lived that way for 20 years. I stayed high every day for 20 years. And that wasn't just pot. I did a lot of other drugs too. I actually was addicted to cocaine as well for a long time. But
Wow.
when the Bible says that our body has a spirit inside of it, and when we die, our spirit leaves our body. And that's exactly what happened to me. When my heart stopped, my spirit left my body and went up into the roof of the garage. And I just watched everything from above, like watching a movie. You can research it. They call them out-of-body experiences or near-death experiences. And there's like 8 to 10 million people right now in the world that have been documented as claiming to have had one at some point when they died, car accident or, drowning or stroke, heart attack, and their heart stops or whatever.
Is that
Their
near-death
spirit leaves their body
experience?
just like mine did. What's that?
The near-death experience, and what exactly
Yeah,
does it look
near-death
like when you
experience.
die? Like, what did you see? Did you see like a white light or something? Like, what did you see when your
Yeah,
soul
so,
sent?
yeah, everybody, pretty much I've been researching and reading them after it happened to me. And when my spirit left my body, I went up to the roof of the garage. I watched from above. I saw everything going on, and I wasn't in pain anymore. There was like no pain. I wasn't scared. I was like in perfect peace. And I did see a tunnel that had light on the end of it, off to my right. And I didn't go. At that point, I didn't go down it yet. Or up it. I was just watching. Excuse me. 'Cause on each side of my body was a humongous angel, and they didn't have wings or anything, but somehow I just knew they were angels, and they were like 8 feet tall. Leonard, the guy I was working with, he's like 6 feet tall. The only reason why I'm guessing that they're 8 feet tall approximately is because their heads stuck up about
Damn, they're
roughly
big.
2 feet taller than his head, And they had these white robes that were like shining white light, like bright robes. Big muscles, big backs, big shoulders, long hair, real long hair that went down their back, but they were men, the guys, but they had real long hair. And they had their hands. They're in the front of the truck where I was just like I said, my body's in the front of the truck now, and they had their hands down in the middle of my. So Leonard, the guy I was working with, he's on his knees right above me, and I'm watching from above, and he's crying, he's apologizing, saying he's sorry because he had jacked up the truck and not used any jack stands or any safety equipment, so he felt like it was his fault that the accident happened. And so, the fire department people there saying that I'm dead, so they're not doing anything with me. But he's just crying, and he's on his knees, and on each side of him, these angels were on their knees just like he was. But again, like I said, their heads stuck up like 2 feet taller. And they had their hands in the middle of my belly, right where I was flat, right where I was crushed flat. That's where the angels had their hands, right in that crevice. All the way. If you could picture it, you could feel the bottom of your ribs, and then go down and feel where your pelvic bone, where your pelvis is, all the way in between the bottom of your ribs and your pelvis. I was flat all the way across there.
Oh,
And
wow.
they had their hands right in that
Crazy.
channel, that groove where I was flat. And they didn't move. They weren't like talking. They didn't like turn around and look at me or communicate with me up in the ceiling, where my spirit was up in the ceiling. I just watched from above and just watched them on their knees on each side of me with their hands. And people were coming and going, and I was listening to the emergency workers saying that guy down there was dead, me. And finally, after 20 minutes, this lady, she was one of the last 2 people to get there, and I watched her come in the back door. Everybody else heard another guy, 2 of them. They came in the back door, and everybody else came in the front. And that's a little detail, but that little detail really does prove that I was having an out-of-body experience. Some people say, oh, it's in your mind, or they say, it's this, you can explain it, and they've got different doctors sometimes. Certain doctors, ones that don't believe in God or believe in the spirit world, they'll say, they'll try and come up with excuses or reasons why people have these out-of-body experiences because there's so many people that have them. And they say basically it's just something in your mind. Well, that's a good story, except that it doesn't add up because a lot of times people that have the out-of-body experience are able to see things that really happened that they wouldn't be able to see, like in other rooms, other places. And for me, what I saw him come in the back door and laying underneath the front of the truck with my eyes closed, no heartbeat, no pulse. I shouldn't have been able to tell anybody what door they came in, but yet I know that these 2 people, this lady named Shannon Celia and this other guy, they came in the back door, and everybody else came in the front. And I told them that like a year later when I got out of the hospital. But anyway, so I watched her come in the back door. She came up the driver's side of the truck. She got down on her knees between the angels. She started feeling around for a pulse. I'm just watching it off from the ceiling, my spirit up above, watching down. And she, couldn't find a pulse. And I listened to the people tell her that I was dead. And she said, "What is his name?" And they said, "Bruce Van Natta." And she began to, gently pat me in the face and just started saying louder and louder and louder, "Bruce Van Natta, open your eyes. Bruce Van Natta, open your eyes. Come on, come back."
Amazing.
And everybody was looking at her like she was crazy. I could see it from above. And there's two guys, anyway, that I could see. They're looking at her like she was crazy. And all of a sudden, my spirit came back into my body, back from the ceiling, back into my body. My heart started. And they weren't going to do CPR because I had broken ribs, chest injury. They're not going to push on your chest with broken ribs. They didn't defibrillate me because they knew I had bled out, so there's nothing that was going to do. So they weren't doing nothing, and she didn't do anything medical either. She just kept patting me in the face and telling me to open my eyes. And what I found out later was she was a Christian, and she was praying that God would bring me back to life. So when she was patting me in the face and saying, "Open your eyes," she was basically doing it in faith that God was going to bring me back to life. So she prayed me back to life. My spirit came back into my body, and I ended up getting med-flighted. First, I was taking my ambulance to the next closest town, and then they called in med-flight from there, which med-flighted me to the biggest trauma center in our state. Like you mentioned earlier, I mean, it's all totally doctor documented. And History Channel, the producer from History Channel, he actually, from this certain show called Miracles, he actually said that when they went around the world for 2 years looking for miracle stories, and they spend, however long they did tape and all that stuff, they said it's the best doctor documented miracle that they could find in the whole entire world today.
This tops.
Because the documentation is so good,
Wow.
And so they med-flighted me to the hospital. They, started taking pictures of me and everything, and CAT scans of my belly and everything, and they ended up doing emergency surgery. And again, they found that I had 5 places, major arteries completely severed, as well as my spleen was crushed, pancreas was crushed, 2 vertebrae broken, I think 2 ribs. All my small intestines were all wrecked. And that's the reason why they actually say it's the biggest miracle they can find, is because, number one, they can't find anybody in the world that's ever lived with 5 arteries severed. But number 2 is the second part, big part of the story, is they had to remove almost all of my small intestines.
Oh, man.
And they measured it right to the centimeter exactly how much they were able to save. They saved 2 little pieces. And they sewed those 2 pieces together, but it wasn't enough to sustain life. I couldn't live off the 2 pieces because it wasn't long enough. It was too short. They were feeding me intravenously, and they told me that they could only keep me alive for a year and a half at the absolute most. So I'm starving to death in the hospital, wasting away. And that's when God woke up this guy named Bruce Carlson from all the way across over by you guys over there. He's actually from upstate New York. And God woke him up and told him to fly to Wisconsin, buy a plane ticket, fly to Wisconsin, and pray for me in the hospital. He heard about me through his church, because I was on the prayer chain in his church. Now, this is 6 months later. I'd already been in the hospital for months. And this guy came to New York because he said God told him to. And nobody paid him. Nobody asked him to come, nothing. He just came, prayed for me in the hospital, and that's when God did another miracle. And literally, right on the spot, when this guy prayed, I got 9 to 11 feet of intestines that came out of nowhere. And what's so cool is it's so doctor documented, because they give me, well, first of all, they cut me open. I'd already been operated on at that point 4 times. And they had measured my intestines. They knew exactly how much intestine I had because they had measured it. And so after this guy comes and prays, and my 9 to 11 feet, or approximately 1/2 of my intestines, grew back instantaneously, instantly, right on the spot. An intestine, small intestine, large intestine, once it's damaged, it never, ever, ever grows back. It's impossible. It doesn't ever happen. There's no such thing as intestine growing back. And this guy came and prayed for me, and when he did, I felt it come back in my stomach. And then they started doing, more tests and CAT scans, because I was still in the hospital. And they found that all of a sudden I got half my intestines back. And they actually had to go in one more time. I had one more operation, my 5th operation. And they removed a rib that never grew back. It was just flopping around in there. It never grew back, so I just removed it. And my gallbladder got wrecked because of all the months of intravenous feeding. It wrecked my gallbladder. And so they went in there and then visually looked at all the intestines that had come out of nowhere as well. So, I mean, it is so completely doctor documented, and it's not like the doctors had an agenda. The main doctor that did all my work was an atheist. He didn't even believe in God, and so
Say
it like
what?
totally blew his mind. Yeah, the main doctor that did all my work was an atheist. He didn't believe in God.
I
So,
personally never met an atheist doctor. I thought like the majority of them are Christian, but wow. Continue.
No. The majority of them, I think, probably don't believe in God, from what I've seen. And I mean, not to say that all, but there's definitely a lot of doctors. I misspoke. I shouldn't have said the majority, but there are a lot of doctors that don't believe in God. And he didn't believe in God at all. So, but when he saw it with his own eyes, that my intestines came back, and he knew there's nobody else in the world that he could find with 5 arteries severed and live. He knew that there was something he couldn't explain, in the natural. And so he tried as hard as he could to figure it out and explain it, but there isn't anything. And so he got interviewed. He's been interviewed. History Channel interviewed him. And
which doctor is it?
And again, I mean, I probably shouldn't say his name, but if you see the History Channel, episode on me, you could see him. His name is on there, but anyway, he's
I'll
he
look
doesn't
into
call
that.
himself atheist anymore. Now he calls himself agnostic, which means
Like
he
in the
believes
middle.
that there's a higher power. Yeah, he believes there's a higher power, but he just doesn't know, what that higher power is. He's not going to say who it is or what, but that there's some kind of higher power out there. He's a great guy, and he did a great job on me, and he did a lot of good work on me. So.
You said there was like electric shock when they put the hand on your head or something like that?
Yeah, when that guy prayed for me, Bruce Carlson, when he came from New York and prayed from the hospital, it was like getting shocked. It literally felt like electricity come out of his. I mean, that's the best way I can describe it. It's electricity, power of some kind, come out of his hand, right into my forehead, because that's where he put his hand, was on my forehead, into my head and down through my into my intestines and my gut, my stomach. I could feel stuff moving around in there.
Wow.
Yeah, so because of those 2 big miracles, that 5 arteries completely severed, and my intestines, 9 to 11 feet of intestines coming back, which, I mean, there's, people can say whatever they want, doubt, say that it's a bunch of baloney, whatever, but like I said, I've been on all these television shows, and, people have said, well, show us your medical records. Well, literally, for me, the year that I was in and out of the hospital, basically in the hospital at home next year, I've got and it was over 2,000 pages. There's I think just in the one section alone, there's over 1,000. By the time you add in all the radiology reports and operative notes and everything else, I think it's close to 2,000 with everything. Nurse reports all together. It's binders, like binders and binders of pages, and it's all there. And all these shows have wanted to talk to the doctors. They wanted to talk to the people that were there, the first responder. I mean, that Shannon Celia, the lady that came and prayed me back to life, she's been interviewed by, I think, at least 3 television shows that interviewed her. And, I mean, if somebody doesn't believe in God, that's their own business. I mean, that's their own choice. But, I think if they're open-minded, how can you explain what happened? There's no explanation at all. I mean, there isn't. Some of the best doctors in the entire world, including my doctor, when the President of the United States comes to any place, they put a team of doctors on call in case anything would happen to the President. So when the President used to come, anytime the President would come to Wisconsin, the doctor that did my work, the head one, he was a doctor that would do the work that they'd put on call in case the President got hurt. He doesn't live in Wisconsin anymore. He moved away to another state, but when he did live here, when he was the head of that trauma department in Madison, when the President came, they said this was the doctor they put on call. He's the best of the best. And it's interesting when History Channel interviewed him and some of these other doctors, and they have him go over my stuff on air, and try and explain it. There's no explanation. There's absolutely no reason in the world why I should have ever made it to the hospital. I should have stayed dead when I was there, underneath the truck when I bled out. And the intestines, there's no reason, there's no way to explain why the intestines came back. There's just all the stuff. There's no medical explanation. There's not a natural explanation. I know what it was. I saw the angels, and I mean, I know what happened.
By the way, is there a way that like if possible you that people like when they go to the website your ministry can they see the records that way like for all the skeptics out there or is that
Like I said, there's over 1,000 pages. So I mean, what part of the records could I even put on? You know what I mean? Like, it's like
are they there or
no, because it's over 1,000 pages. That's what I said.
oh
The medical records are over 1,000 pages.
oh it's too much to put on there.
Yeah, and that's the thing about medical records. You have to have some kind of medical background to even understand what they're saying. You know what I mean? Not even like it's not written in normal English. It's not written in layman's language. It's written in it's got all the medical nomenclature and all the medical words. So it doesn't do anybody that isn't trained in it any good. And like I said, it's been shown to enough people already where they've all these people from these shows and whatever. So when you hear the doctors interviewed who don't have an agenda and they're not even it's not like they're trying to prove or disprove anything because they don't have an agenda. And I think that's unbiased right there.
What are your thoughts before you go on? What can you explain? What are your thoughts on prayer?
Well, my thoughts on prayer are this: that as I travel now, this was such a life-changing thing for me. I stopped the business that I had. I've gone into this full-time work of ministry. I travel around constantly speaking. I ministered 160 sometimes last year. And, we've prayed for thousands of people in the last 7 years of being in ministry. And we've seen God do amazing miracles, just like amazing miracles. Over and over and over we see it. And I think, again, the reason why is just because it proves that God is real, that He's alive and well, He's still in the miracle business. I mean, not every single person that we prayed for has been healed. Not every prayer has been answered in the way we want it to be answered. But there's been so many that are. And you can't explain it anything. I mean, logically, can't explain it anything but. Somebody who has a preconceived notions or ideas, if somebody's like very anti-religious or anti-God or whatever, just like anything else, I mean, you can't really change people's minds. I mean, it just is what it is. And for me, I know what I see. I mean, I know what we see as we travel around, and I want people to believe not because it's my story. Of course, everybody wants people to believe what they're saying, on a personal level, but for me, the bigger reason is so that people realize, man, there's a spiritual reality to life, and when we die, our spirit is going to leave our body, just like what I experienced already. It's going to happen for all of us when we die. Our spirit's going to leave our body, and when it does,
unfortunately, they took out the spirituality part when it comes to Christianity or any other religion, because it's all about the money these days, which is that's a disgrace, because there are a bunch of people like you out there, and unfortunately, like, you're underrated. But like it's all about the money, but it's not the spirituality. I was thinking of Peter Popoff, but like I can't compare him to you. I think I prefer you rather than Peter Popoff, because you don't do any money. What was that?
I don't know who was Peter Popoff.
He was a supposedly he could cure somebody. He would he would go into conferences and I think it was the 80s or 90s. He would something about miracle spring water, and he would cure people just by touching them and all that. But he's financially good. He got a lot of money from that. But that's not right though.
Yeah. Well, see, the thing with where I'm at, like I said, we built 2 orphanages, and we actually did that from the equity that was in our house.
No way.
We took the equity from our first home and built the 2 orphanages and the church in India. And
wow.
For me, we go around and share this message. And I used to make pretty good money. I was definitely comfortable when I owned my own business. I traveled around. I did that diesel repair. I was making like $70 an hour is what I charged. And so, I mean, I was doing good. I mean, I had my own job. Everything was great. I had my own business. Everything was great. And now, you know, I go around and speak, and they take an offering, and I'm working 10, 12, 14 hours a day, you know, 7 days
Wow.
a week basically. And I definitely don't, you know, get that same kind of money like I had before, obviously. But the sad part is it does take money to run ministry. I mean, we've got a couple different orphanages that we help support, like monthly support to like feed the kids and do all that stuff, and it takes money, and it takes money to buy plane tickets to fly somewhere to preach, or you know, we just spoke in Chicago this weekend. It was me and my wife and 4 kids, so we got to drive there. We got, you know, you got hotel costs, you got food costs and gas. I mean, so the bad thing is it does take money to do ministry. So I mean, it's almost like the evil necessity. You have to have money to do ministry. It takes money to feed the orphans. It takes money to build orphanages and drill wells and build churches. I mean, it takes money for all that. The people, you know, a lot of people say, oh, it's all about the money. I mean, that's the bad part is you have to have the money to do the ministry. But on the other hand, like you said, you see people abuse it, and basically, and some people just like rob and steal and in the name of God and take money that, you know, and maybe don't use it the best. And that's
That's a,
unfortunate because it does messes it up for people that are
that's a
doing.
stupid thing to do because those people are nothing like you, man. I know personally, like this teacher. Well, he's a sub, but he's also Christian, and uh, that and I don't know if he's heard of you, but like if I ever see him, I'll tell him about your story. Hopefully, you could talk to him. But I'll tell you about that when we're done. But anyway, continue. What happened after you the doctors so you stay in the hospital for months, right?
I ended up spending basically the next year in the hospital. I was in the hospital basically I'd get out a little bit, but I'd get out for a week or two here or there, but I'd get put right back in for months. And I spent basically that whole next year in the hospital. Then I spent basically the next year doing rehab, and then we've been doing, you know, and that was the year we started the ministry. We've been doing that ever since, and just traveling around and speaking and praying for people. And
Wow. How would you relate science to religion, by the way? Like, cause you say you felt a shock.
you know, I'm just a mechanic. I'm no expert in anything
Oh.
like that. But I think my mind, the way I view it is this: that I mean, I have to believe God. I have to believe the Bible, and I've seen people that are like really super smart with science and that are Christians and talk about it, and they say that, you know, basically that the Bible, that science doesn't disprove the Bible if you're open-minded, you know. So, I mean, I guess that's what I have to believe because I know what I've seen with God. I mean, I have to believe the Bible is true and that, you know,
Wow.
God did create the world, and so that's where I stand on it.
Oh.
I don't get too involved in it. My main thing is, you know, just talking about what I experience, what I know, what I see happen week in and week out. I mean, science is kind of like medicine. You know, it's all kind of related, and science or medicine would say that, you know, intestines can't grow back, but yet they grew back, and that's why I'm alive today. Otherwise, I would have been dead 7 years ago.
That's unbelievable.
Science says that, you know, somebody with a blind eye, that blind eye isn't going to ever get healed, but yet I've seen God open blind eyes and make them work perfect. And science would say that, you know, a deaf ear can't get open, but I've seen God supernaturally open deaf ears, and science would say that somebody that's paralyzed can't get up and walk after they've been paralyzed, you know, and like really like messed up paralyzed for real with a spinal cord injury or something. Yet we've seen it happen, not all the time, definitely not even the majority, but we have seen it happen. In 7 years, I've seen, you know, I don't know, a handful of paralyzed people get up and walk after prayer. I've seen cancerous tumors fall right off literally after prayer. I mean, this stuff is real, and science would say none of that's real, but yet I know what I see.
And
Just this weekend,
they'll tell you it's like
2 days
like
ago.
the mind and all that.
What's that?
They'll tell you it's like all about like the mind. What's your
Yeah, but but the mind can't make a blind eye open, and a mind can't make a deaf ear open. And you know, this weekend there was a lady at the conference this weekend in Chicago that had she had a big long name for it, but basically she said it's her something wrong with her brain stem. It was too long, and it was like into a vertebrae or something, and it caused really bad pressure and pain and all these just a whole bunch of stuff that went with it. And she, after prayer, I mean, the pain was completely gone. She could turn her head. All her symptoms, everything that she had for symptoms were totally gone. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, again,
Wow.
I'm not going to speak for science, but I can speak for God and say that we've seen God do many, 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 many miracles, and that He's the reason why He does it is because He loves us, and He just letting us know He's real.
Oh, so when you were in the hospital bed, like your family and the entire community supported you, right? Like there was like a bunch of people in the hospital like every day just for you.
No, 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 no. I was in the hospital 2.5 hours from where I lived, and
Oh.
I've got a wife with 4 children, and so my wife stayed in that first year. My wife stayed the first 3 weeks with me. She never left the hospital for 3 weeks, and once she was
Wow.
pretty sure that I wasn't going to die. At that point, she was pretty sure I was going to live for 3 weeks. Then she basically went home and had to take care of our 4 kids. So she'd come and visit me every couple days, and then come on the weekends and stuff. But no, I was basically alone in the hospital for a year, except for when my family would get to come and visit. But I was a long way from home.
Wow. So you were in the hospital bed for like a year to 2 years, and then you got
One
out of
year.
the hospital, right? 1 year.
Yeah,
Oh.
I was in the hospital basically for the whole next year. I'd get out. I mean, I'd be there for like 3 months, and then I'd get out for a week. I'd get
Oh.
back in for like 2 months. I'd get out for like a week, like that. And I spent that like that the whole next year. And then the year after that, I was at home, but I was having to do rehab. I'd go to the local hospital and do rehab at home and stuff.
Wow. And you don't have to go to the hospital, I assume. Like now you're
No,
young.
nope, no, I'm good.
Man, that's amazing. Has your story made like national news? But you said like it was mostly on
Well,
the Christian networks, like, but it was not secular unless it was like History Discovery.
yeah, mostly. It was, I mean, 700 Club Christian Broadcasting Network. That's international. There's been a lot of big, all the biggest Christian shows have used the story and talked about it. But as far as secular, they pretty much stay away. Mainstream media, they pretty much stay away from religious stuff. They don't want to cover it. They don't talk about it. So it's been pretty much ignored for the most part by secular media, except, like I said, History Channel did it, and in a series. It was part of one of their series. Discovery Channel has done it, and they taped it earlier this year. Or I guess end of last year they taped it, and they said it would come out this year. So History Channel, Discovery Channel, those are big secular, mainstream media.
Oh, because like I can't believe they was like stay away from your story. Your story is really fascinating, and like I wish I would have like heard like more about it. Wow, that's
Well,
amazing.
our website is sweetbreadministries.com. Sweetbreadministries.com. That's the website. And if people want to hear more, they can go to our website and check it out. I've written a couple books.
Oh
That's another
yeah,
part of what our
your
ministry
book
does.
Saved by
Yeah.
Angels, right?
Yep. The first one was called Saved by Angels, and the second one is called A Miraculous Life. So both those books are available, Amazon or every place I go and speak. And I bring them along and stuff. So
Well, so that book pretty much describes everything like your situation, right?
yep.
Wow. I wish I could see if I could get it. I didn't know that you were involved in an orphanage in India. You were talking about that earlier.
We've built 2 orphanages in Honduras, which is Central America.
Oh, there too.
We built a church. Yeah, we built a church in India, but we paid to have the church built in India, and we paid to have the 2 orphanages built in Central America.
Wow. You should be overrated, not underrated. um, By the way, what advice would you give humanity out there, at least like the rest of the world or whoever's listening, etc. Your story. What would you tell them?
What would I
Yeah.
tell them about my story?
Yeah, like what would you tell him for everybody who's like skeptic? At first I was a teensy bit skeptic. I'll admit it. But like I've looked up your story. You actually went to the hospital. There's medical records, etc. But there are people like just as
Yeah,
skeptic as I would be. So what would you tell them?
yeah. Well, again, that's what I was kind of saying before. I mean, I can't change anybody's mind, and I definitely don't want to try and force anybody to do anything, whatever. I think if they're a skeptic, I'd say, I mean, everybody's got different things that they're skeptical about. Somebody might be skeptical about if they're gonna like, eating Asian food or something. You know what I mean? And just don't. I think it's all the same. I mean, as far as we should just be open minded and my kids might we go somewhere and my kids say I don't want to eat that, or someone say, well, try it. Just try it. And I think the same thing for Christianity. You can Jesus is real. I mean, it's 100% God is real, and the only way we're going to know or not is if we say, God, show me. If you're real, show me. And if people do that with a open mind and say, God, okay, if you're real, then show me. And you come to him and say, I'm a skeptic. I don't know, God, if you're out there, show me you're out there. Show me you're real. And if you do that with, I think a sincere motive or sincere heart, I believe he answers every time. I believe he will show us that he's real.
Wow. I've seen besides the one you told about this lady that she couldn't turn her head around. There's
Yeah.
other also testimonies where it cause broken pelvis, cancer healed, creative miracle in arm.
Yeah.
Can you
We're on
talk
our
about those?
website. Oh, yeah. There's like, I actually quit putting them on, but yeah, there's like over 50 testimonies that people have sent in that we put on the website, but there's just so many. I just quit them on. I haven't put anything recent on, but I don't think I put anything on there for over a year. But yeah, I mean, we've seen blind eyes open, deaf ears open, cancers healed, people get out of wheelchairs. We've seen God do all kinds of really huge miracles like that.
Huh.
So people send in their story and we put it on. And
Well, so and your story has to be it has to be like the craziest story. There's no other that I know in my knowledge, or like in general, like that could top this story.
yeah, well, there's a lot of man. If you start researching healing testimonies. There are a lot of God has done so many big miracles around the world. I mean, mine is they say one of the best documented as far as medically documented with doctors reports and all that. But there's so many. Oh man, there's so many miracles around the world that God has done. It's all over. If you start looking and you're open minded, there's all of them. Really are.
By the way, like as far as like a few things that happen in news, what's your say on like the stuff that's going on around the world? What's your perspective on that?
You know what? I don't really get into it. Even talking about any world events a whole lot. For me, again, it just comes back to the Bible. The Bible says that as time winds down, as
Oh.
time gets short before Jesus comes back the second time, that there's going to be wars and rumors of wars and fighting and earthquakes and famines and basically a bunch of bad crap happening all over the world, and it just gets worse and worse until Jesus comes back. Is the way I understand the Bible. And I mean, there's even other Christians who don't believe that, and they don't think that's the way it is. I mean, that's my understanding of it, and
Also,
that's my
so you
understanding.
don't
I
follow
think
the news as
that's what we've
much,
seen.
so you just focus on your family and your ministry.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. I mean, I watch world news. I pay attention to what's going on, but as far as again, I just think it's what I think is happening is that the things that the Bible talked about that says are going to happen in the future, we're just seeing them happen. That's what I think.
Mm.
I think
And
everything the Bible says is going to happen in the future is coming to pass. We're seeing it come to pass.
the stuff and like there's a bunch of bad people in the world that their only excuse is religion and God. I think it's very stupid how they interpret it because they're like the opposite of how you are, and like that just sucks because I look at the news like every every day, and
Yeah,
like when it comes to like like terrorists like ISIS, or any
Yeah.
and when I talk to I can talk to Muslims and they're like the opposite. Like I don't know what's the deal with like how does society get to like
Yeah.
degrade so much? I don't know.
I don't know either. Well, again, I mean, actually, I do know. I mean, the Bible says, you go off what the Bible says, and that's what I believe. You know, the Bible says that the enemy, the devil, uses evil people to do his work. And if he can convince people, you know, I mean, there's a lot of people that have done bad things throughout history, and somehow in their mind, they think they're doing good. I mean, they think they're doing like the right thing, and it's because they're deceived. They're deceived in their thinking. The enemy has deceived them to use them as tools for evil. And, you know, I think that's what it comes down to.
Wow, and like the quote says, the road to hell it leads on good intentions. So no joke about that. Well,
Yeah.
thanks for being on, Bruce.
Yeah.
If possible, like in the future, if I get to visit Wisconsin, I'll check your ministry out. Hopefully, I'll meet you and your family in person, like in the
Okay, Chris.
future. If you
God
don't.
bless you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you for having me on the show. Okay,
thank you,
goodbye.
Bruce. Good luck, best of luck to you, man. Thank you.
Thanks. Have a good day.
You
Bye-bye.
too. That guy's wow. That was Bruce De Palma. Not Bruce De Palma. Sorry. Well, they have the same name, Bruce. But it was Bruce Van Natta, and his story. Wow. When it comes to wow, that's unbelievable. Like how could he live? Like he's not trolling. He's not joking. This wow, that's crazy.